Alrighty, so pretty much everything that Disney has dished out this particular year of 2023 has been a total box office flop. However, no flop, whether it be from Disney's Marvels or Disney's Lucasfilm, has been as bad as the Marvels. Ant-Man, Quantumania, Indiana Jones were massive flops, but the Marvels has been a box office disaster, as it were. And as such, the mainstream media has been trying to defend it and spin certain narratives to cover up for the Marvels. Initially, we were hearing from the mainstream media that this was the highest grossing theatrical release by a black woman director. Also telling us that it had an 83% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, not mentioning the critics didn't even like this movie. The critics didn't like it, and the Rotten Tomatoes ratings can be very, very questionable because we've seen them cook the books before. But in any case, things have gotten so bad that even the mainstream media or access media cannot even defend this movie any longer. And now Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, has stepped in to start making excuses for why this particular movie has flopped. Disney Marvels, or the Marvels, suffered from a lack of supervision on set, says Bob Iger. Disney CEO admits studio has made too many sequels recently. Now he goes on to make further flimsy excuses as he squirms to try to save face from what is going on at Disney at the very moment. So I want us to get into all of the things that he had to say, because like I said before, I love to watch people like this squirm when their agendas blow up in their faces. I'm going to share my opinion as we go along. Please feel free to share your opinion in that comment section below. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Disney CEO Bob Iger said at the New York Times Deal Book Summit, following the Marvels flopping at the box office, I can't believe that they're saying it. Music to my ears coming out from Variety. Marvels flopping at the box office. Say it with me, people. The Marvels flopping at the box office. That there was lack of supervision on set of the film as a result of COVID pandemic. Seriously, that's your excuse? This is an excuse that was used by the mainstream media and access media 2 years ago. So you are 2 years behind from using the same excuse. Now, I would have bought into this excuse if other movies that were being produced at that very time, talk about your Universal's Super Mario Brothers, was in production at that period in time. Barbie was in production at that period in time, and so was Oppenheimer. These movies made over $1 billion or close to $1 billion at the box office. Even Sound of Freedom, a movie that had a budget as low as $14 million, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, $14 million, made over $274 million at the box office, and it was produced during COVID. So don't come out here and use this flimsy, dumb excuse of COVID as the reason why this movie did not make it. No, it didn't make it because it's poor storyline, and besides, you guys, instead of actually putting money towards the right thing and hiring the right people to write a screenplay and develop the story of the Marvels, no, you decided to hire activists instead, and that's why they prioritize identity politics rather than actually giving us a good storyline or good character development or any of those ingredients that makes good movies. In any case, let us continue. The combination of the pandemic sets restrictions and Disney's increased output due to the launch of the streamers Disney Plus made it increasingly difficult for studio executives to oversee the onslaught of the new production. Nobody asked you guys to do the streaming service. Nobody asked you, but you wanted to do it. And there are ways that you can actually make the streaming service work along with these movies, if only you did the right thing that we had been complaining for ages. And when we complain, what do they call us? They call us misogynistic people or misogynoir. We just hate black women. That's why it's not making, that's why we're not patronizing this movie, even though more men patronize this movie than the so-called women that they are trying to pander to. And I'm not talking about women in general. I'm talking about specific types of people that they're trying to pander to, who are keyboard warriors on, on X and whatnot. Since opening in theaters in November, the Brie Larson-led Marvel sequel has only grossed $77 million at the box office and $187 million worldwide. Its biggest flop yet in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and is shaping to be the first MCU title not to cross the 100 million mark domestically, and it probably won't. They're trying to stretch its theatrical release as much as possible, but I still don't think it's going to cross it. Now, mind you guys, bear in mind that this movie had a production budget budget, once again, of $275 million, not even factoring the fact that they spent probably $60 to $80 million in marketing this movie to start with. The movie needs to make at least $700 million to break even, and maybe more than that to actually make a profit. And it doesn't even seem like it's going to make the production budget money of $275 million. Now, he goes on to say, Bob Iger, now, the Marvels was shot during COVID, Iger explained. There wasn't as much supervision on set, so to speak, where we have executives really looking over what's being done day after day. So that's your excuse, right? The Marvels flop follows other underperforming Disney films from this year, such as Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. These were absolute crap movies. I've actually now seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it was horrendous. To say it was horrendous is an understatement. As Variety reported earlier this month, 2023 will mark the first time since 2014, except for the pandemic-stricken years of 2020 and 2021, that Disney hasn't launched a billion-dollar release. The studio had $7 billion grosses in 2019, including Avengers Endgame and The Lion King. Of course they would, because those movies were written and directed and produced by people who really at that point in time were not in their agenda mode. They weren't trying to push agenda. They weren't trying to pass the message. So in any case, I'm not sure another studio will ever achieve some of the numbers that we have achieved, leaning on past glories. Now I see. Iger said at the press conference, I mean, we got to the point where if a film didn't do $1 billion in global box office, we were disappointed. That's an unbelievably high standard, and I think we have to get more realistic. Oh, so you have to get more realistic, do ya? Y'all thought that you guys were on top and that people would just gobble product, even though you were prioritizing identity politics over the real things that you should be doing, entertaining us, right? But people aren't gobbling because the world isn't as stupid. This is actually very, very delightful to me. It's a pleasant thing to actually witness, because it tells me that the world hasn't gone as cuckoo for Cocoa Puff as these people actually think the world has. In any case, he continues to speak. Speaking more broadly about Disney's output, Iger added, I don't want to apologize for making sequels. Some of them have done extraordinarily well. Well, maybe in your first phase 1, 2, and 3, yes, they did pretty well. Your phase 4 and phase 5, when the MCU has turned into the MCU, it's doing absolutely horrendous. That's what it is doing. So still leaning on past glories there, like I said. So some of them have done extraordinarily well, and they've been good films too. I think there has to be a reason to make them. Like I said, he's squirming, so some of his language is getting mixed up. You have to have a good story. Finally, we've been saying this all the while. Are you listening, Deadline? Are you listening, Variety? Are you listening, The Collider? Are you listening, Hollywood Reporter? And all you insane lamestream media and access media out there? He said it himself. It's no good story, or they are not as strong as the original story, because you're not sticking to the script. You are not sticking to the source material. No, you are prioritizing your own agenda of identity politics and passing the message to people than actually giving us a good storyline. That's why the thing isn't selling. So Bob Iger himself has finally admitted, and I don't want to hear anything about homophobia or sexism or bigotry or misogyny or misogynoir from any of this access media. Y'all are insane if you think that's the reason why these things ain't making money. Y'all are also to blame, because whenever they do this crap, this access media continue to shield for them and to defend them. But Bob Iger is now saying this is the reason why. This is a far cry from what he was saying just about a week ago, when he was blaming everybody else and everything else, including the person that he handpicked himself. If you guys recall, just a couple of days ago, Bob Iger was blaming Bob Chapek. Bob Iger criticizes Disney's moves under Bob Chapek. I was disappointed in what I was seeing. So blaming everything on Bob Chapek, regardless of the fact that majority of the decisions of what we are seeing right now were made by him. And I have got the receipts right here. Check this out, people. The movie that Bob Iger greenlighted, and some of these movies, even though they came out under Bob Chapek's tenure, they were greenlighted by Bob Iger himself. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, greenlighted by Bob Iger in 2019. Peter Pan and Wendy, that was a poor showing for a streaming service. 2016, Bob Iger greenlighted that. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 barely made profit. Just about made what was spent on it and barely made profits. The Little Mermaid, absolute flop. 2016, Bob Iger. Elemental, 2015, Bob Iger. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, 2015 or 2016, Bob Iger. Haunted Mansion, 2015, Bob Iger. The Marvels, Chapek and Iger greenlighted The Marvels. Wish, 2018, which is flopping at the box office right now, was also by Bob Iger. Now, Bob Iger is saying things that people seem to want to hear. A lot of people are saying that maybe there will be changes. He's talking about, yes, moving forward, we are going to be doing things differently. We are going to be prioritizing, quantity over volume. However, we've heard this story before now, haven't we? 3 years ago, when he was actually handed over to Bob Chapek, whom, remember, once again, he handpicked and is now criticizing for the moves that Bob Chapek made under his own tenure. Bob Iger says Disney will always prioritize content quality over volume. So, guys, having said all this, I think Bob Iger is just saying what he's saying because right now there is a proxy fight within Disney, for control, right, by some other people. So at this moment, he's just trying to do everything that he can to save face. Bob Iger is not going to change because this is way more than them just making profit. If it was all about them making profit, they would have made the changes a long time ago rather than try to silence us like certain people from certain countries used to do in authoritarianism, in trying to silence any dissent. They would have made the actual changes, but instead they decided to silence the voice of the people. In many of these people that have been speaking up against them, whether it be on Twitter or on YouTube, constructively criticizing everything that they are doing. And so if you're out there thinking that Bob Iger is going to make any changes and that Disney is going to make any changes anytime soon, I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you.